Hello everybody, and welcome to Programming Concepts Through Game Design. In this episode, we're going to be talking about objects. An object is just a way for programmers to represent a real-world thing with some computer code. Take, for example, this cup here. It's just a cup, but it's not very useful to us until we write some code to make it useful. So let's start with that. So if we open up the script that's attached to our cup object, we can start making it useful. First thing we're going to need are a few variables that'll help us along the way. If we think about a cup logically, there's a few things that are universal across all cups. It can hold some type of liquid, it can hold some amount of that liquid, and there's a maximum amount of liquid that the cup can hold. So, let's start with those. We're going to start with a fluid, and we'll just call it fluid in cup. And that's going to be the fluid type in our cup. And fluid is just a custom data type defined up here. These aren't very useful to us as they currently stand, but this can be changed later if you ever were to recreate something like this. So next we're going to need the amount of that fluid. So float fluid amount, whoops, semicolon. And there's some, whoa, cannot type today, look at that. And there's some amount that the cup can hold as its largest capacity. So another float value called cup size. I will learn to type one of these days, I promise. And this is one of those values that's not going to change very frequently. So we can go ahead and set the cup size now if we want. Let's just say 200. Now having these variables up here is all well and good, but something to note is these variables are not public. Therefore, when we go back into Unity, they're not going to show up in the inspector view over here. So let's quickly write a way to display what the current state of the cup is, just to a UI text object. This is why this is here. So we have a string called stats, and every frame, the UI text object is going to be updated with whatever stats is. So let's start by displaying what type of fluid is currently in the cup. So the cup is filled with, we're going to leave a space there, and we can just add fluid in cup dot to string. Plain and simple. So now, if we come back into Unity and we were to run it at this point, once it compiles, there we go, it'll start with the cup is filled with water. Now, we didn't set water, so where is it getting that from? Well, remember how this isn't a public field? If we were to change this to public and hop back into Unity, we can then affect the type of fluid in the cup. Water just so happened to be the default. But let's say we want it filled with coffee. If we run it again, we can now see that the cup is filled with coffee. So let's now show on the screen some of the other variables, like our fluid amount and, well, the fluid amount. You'll see what we can do with cup size here in a minute. So I'm going to make a few little changes to this. This is not 100% necessary, but just for the sake of making sure that the compiler is not going to get it wrong, adding these parentheses on the outside is going to help. So we're just going to add on to this long string here. This is not the best way to do it, but it works, and it's easy for us to read. So we're just going to add a return character so it goes on to a new line, and we're going to say the cup has, and we're just going to add fluid amount plus another string, units, not unity, units in it. The fluid units are up to you, milliliters, liters, ounces. It's not really relevant to this though, so we're just going to say units for now. Now if we save and hop back into Unity and run it, it should display below what type it's filled with how much of the liquid is currently in the cup. As we can see, the cup is currently empty. Now, you can say that a cup is filled with coffee and that it's empty, but that might not make sense in the context of what you're doing. For us though, it's fine because we're not relying on coffee being in the cup at any given time. So now that we can see what state the cup is currently in at any time, let's go ahead and add a way to act upon this cup. For example, we can refill a cup with some amount of liquid. So we have a method down here called refill, and it takes in some amount. So all we're going to do is just fluid amount plus equals the amount passed to this method. Plus equals is just a shorthand for fluid amount equals fluid amount plus amount. Saves typing. So if we go ahead and run this now, we can see that these two buttons down here are going to start serving a purpose. If I click refill, the cup now has 20 units of fluid in it, and it's 10% full. Refill again, keep going, keep going. Now, logically, if I were to click refill again, and we were dealing with an actual cup, the cup is full. We can't add more liquid to it, so it should spill out onto the table, right? Well, not necessarily. To the computer, nothing has gone wrong here. It was told to add a number to another number, and it did it. We haven't added constraints to say, hey, this cup is full, stop filling. So let's pop back into MonoDevelop and change that real quick. So if we just add a quick if statement here, if fluid amount plus the amount we want to add is greater than the cup size, i.e. we're trying to add more liquid than the cup can hold, let's just print out a quick message saying we can't do anything. Debug.log the cup is full and will overflow if you add more. Otherwise, else, we want to add the amount. So now if we go back into Unity and run this, it's still running, whoops. We go back into Unity and we start refilling the cup. And all right, we can refill it one more time till it's full, but watch what happens if we try and fill it now. We get a message down here saying the cup is full and will overflow if you add more, and it doesn't actually add more liquid to it. That's because we've said if it exceeds what the cup can hold, don't add. So arbitrarily filling a cup with some liquid is all well and good, but a cup's purpose is to hold something so you can then drink from it, right? So let's make this drink method work. Now for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to copy our fill method, but I'm going to make a few minor changes. So instead of adding the amount we wish to drink, we're going to subtract the amount, and we're going to compare, is that less than 0? If it is, we can just say the cup is empty and you can't drink more. Otherwise, we can just subtract the amount we wish to drink. So now if we go into Unity and run this, we can refill and we can drink. So let's just see what happens when we try and drink more than the cup has. The cup is empty. So this has just been a quick overview of objects. Obviously this was no means an all-intensive tutorial or explanation of how to use an object or how to apply objects to all sorts of different scenarios, but rather just a way for you to visualize how we can take something in the real world and mock it up with some simple computer code. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment down below, tell me what you want to see next. If you have a particular concept like a binary search tree or something like that, I'd be more than happy to do a video on it. Yeah, peace.